Hey everyone, welcome back. And this is episode 11 of CNY Conversations. I am Jason Klink, your host, and today I am with Alexis Pierce. And Alexis is an award winning strategist, yogi, and soul purpose mentor. After her first career with the US government, she left her unfulfilled and searching for a deeper purpose and created a new system to discover your true calling and become the person you are meant to be. Now she guides people to embrace their truth, turn their path into power, and live authentically. Easy for me to say. Alexis, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can edit that one out. So Alexis and I had connected on Facebook, and that bio by itself is super interesting to me. And the reason I say that is, and I've talked about it on other podcast episodes and other pieces of content that I do, is how I spent uh, almost 30 years in public safety. And after almost 30 years and being completely burned out with it, I was unmotivated, unfulfilled, unsatisfied, and searching for something better. And realistically, for me, it took developing a new skill set and with my real estate sales to be able to move on to something else. And, I was at the time, I was, second guessed and almost crucified by, colleagues saying, "What are you doing? You're walking away from that state retirement. You're walking away from that guaranteed job," and so on and so on. But the attraction to working shift work and long hours and mentally getting beat up was just not there anymore. Uh, is that what you find with or something like that with the people that you work with?
Well, my story is a little bit different in the sense that I wasn't doing shift work, but it was the same in the sense that I had a job I fired from the best benefit in the country other than Congress, and like an abs dream job, like it was a dream job in the government. I just didn't think I'd accomplish a dream. Like we're not supposed to accomplish our purpose, it's something to live to. So it was, what do you do when you get there? And I think all of us, we have passion. And then when we see the other side of the curtain and we become invested in our careers on a daily basis, some of that stuff we don't like, and it takes a toll on us. And so I see so many people who work their way up, achievement after achievement, success after success, and they never ever get that feeling of being fulfilled and happy.
Hmm.
And it really, for me, it's really heartbreaking because we're told that if we keep going, if we get to these higher levels, that we're going to feel better, but we're never given skills to actually feel better,
Right.
learn how to feel fulfilled and happy. And so we end up feeling empty and really alone, and like something's wrong with us, because why aren't we happy even to have this prestigious role, or a career we like, or all the things we want in life. And it's a horrible, isolating feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the best lessons I've taken away from some social media influencers that I tend to consume on a regular basis is like the more successful ones we'll talk about, they have people in their inner circles that are making, hundreds of millions of dollars and they're miserable. And they know people making hundreds of thousands of dollars and are extremely happy at what they're doing. And I think that, it really depends on, well, first of all, I truly believe it depends on mindset. What's your mindset? Are you creating an environment that you can thrive in, or are you creating an environment that's you're actually bringing yourself down,
Yeah.
or maybe you're not in the right circles, or maybe you have destructive behaviors that is ultimately holding you back. What are some of the most common things that you're hearing about, why I'm not thriving, why I'm not satisfied, why am I not happy in what I'm doing?
Well, I think a lot of it, like you say, comes down to mindset. So a lot of people feel victimized and stuck. I know I definitely felt that way, where I was like, why isn't life working out perfectly? Why don't I get everything I want?
Yeah,
Right? Have that feeling that like we didn't get the opportunity, we didn't get the chance, somebody steered us wrong. Like, oh, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be this, but my parents made me go down this path, and now I'm bitter about it 40 years later. So some of it, I hear a lot of that sort of anger, frustration, and wanting to blame somebody else just because we've trapped. Um, and I think the other big piece is feeling a bit hopeless, because it is so ingrained in our culture that achieving equals having like having the mind and the contentment that we want. And so when people have achieved and they don't have it, then they feel like they're never going to be able to create happiness because clearly it's just an empty room at the end of the hall where they're, they're never going to find it. So I think a little hopelessness and frustration mixed with anger for being, on the wrong path and
Yeah.
taught never taught how to actually be happy and fulfilled.
One of the things you said there kind of stuck out to me is about the influence from previous generations, the generational influence. I've talked about this before too, because it was when I first heard that, I'm like, wow, no kidding, that's true. And the influence from baby boomers on the Gen X and Gen X on the millennials and so on down the line. And I actually saw something, side note, I saw something funny the other day where it talked about how Generation X are the way they are because of that influence from the baby boomer. And it was a cutscene to a country Western movie. And this adult's talking to the 6-year-old boy and he says he can't swim. He goes, "How old are you, boy?" He goes, 6 years old. He picks him up and throws him in the lake. Swim. And but that's so true of my generation, that it was just shut up and do it. Luckily, I think we've evolved over the last 50 years to, and it was another conversation I had with one of my kids the other day, who's 14 years old and thinking of going into high school and thinking about what's next after high school, already thinking about that. And but you have like the older generation say, nope, you have to stay close to home when you go off to college. Your first 2 years, you have to stay close to home. Don't you dare go, because if something happens, you have to be able to come home. And
Mm.
I'm of the mindset now of go spread your butterfly wings and go try everything. Who cares where you land? You can figure out a way to get back home. And that's I think it's just such a difference in mindsets. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are in the older generations are really frustrated now because they want that the happiness and the freedom that they see their generations having and the flexibility and price.
Right.
But it's so embedded. No, you've got to earn it. No, no happiness late. It comes later. No, just do the job. Just do the job. And they look at people who perhaps doing unconventional jobs or careers or God forbid or online as influencers. And like,
Yeah.
what are these people doing? Like these people are ridiculous. They don't deserve this. And so there's this frustration around the ways that business unfolding, ways
Yeah.
that they're able to make money nowadays is for being you, which was never allowed when you were supposed to be a cog in a wheel.
Yeah, for sure. So, are you working with certain types of professionals, or are you just working with individuals based on their need? How does that play out for you?
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. So I have a focus, and the type of people that I really love to connect with are people who've like climbed that ladder to success and then realize that it's not all that's cracked up to be and feel that emptiness. Because what I love about people in that situation is that they don't need any of the external trapping things anymore. They're like, I got the house, like I got the family, the kids, I got the job, like, okay, I did that. Whereas people who are still climbing that ladder, no, but you don't understand. If I only had this, then I'm happy. They haven't had the experience yet that actually no, happiness is sort of self-trained on the side. Um, so I do like to work with people who've had the success and are still empty. But I tend to work with a variety of people because at every stage we hit on some version of frustration and some version of why can't I get clear here? Why can't I break out of this? Whether it's
Mhm.
who are trying to write a book and they get stuck on that chapter that they don't want to talk about and
Oh.
finish the book. And it's like, okay, well, that's because we've got some emotions here. Or people who maybe they want to start a business and make a big career change. This is actually a huge group of people I work with. They just want it to feel more soul aligned. They want to feel like what they're going to switch into and what they're building is much more meaningful. And I do a like a strategic process to connect tangible actions to what I call your soul's vision and purpose. Strategist by training. So I do like way out there spiritual work, but it just look very strategic when you go through it. Um, do a lot of that connecting of the dots to make sure that what we do every day feels meaningful. So a little bit of everything.
And super interesting to me. I talk with former colleagues in the public safety space that are, some of them are in the same spot that I was in, and they just don't know. I mean, there's that big scary cliff that's in front of them that, they're afraid to make that jump without a parachute because, of all the benefits and stuff they get or whatever it might be. But the ones that do decide they want to jump off that cliff without a parachute, they find difficulty in finding a new line of work, a new path, maybe trying, looking for an ability to start a business. And a lot of them, it's because, and I've found that it's that difficulty in developing that new skill set. They can go out and interview for a bunch of jobs that they would want to work in the vendor space or in a completely different industry, but they get frustrated because they don't have the skill set to be able to make themselves employable.
Yeah.
Is that something that you work on with the clients that you work with?
So I view it a bit differently in the sense I don't do skilling in that way. So let me give you an example. So first responders are actually really unique in this way, and I'm doing that on my experience in the government. So I worked in the Department of Homeland Security, so it was a lot
Mm,
of first responders. It was a lot of people who are
yep.
very mission oriented focus.
Hmm.
Have a mission oriented focus, then you are automatically into a selfless service. And so you have one mission, a shared mission, everybody on the same team, and you know what role you play in order to achieve that mission. And when you leave an environment like that and you go out into creating business or trying to slot into a normal business, then all of that way that you've trained yourself to be in service to them all of a sudden become in service to something that now feels maybe selfish, maybe too
Hmm.
focused on you, maybe
Yep.
you don't want to be in the limelight. Like I do the sort of deeper emotional skills behind that, not necessarily that okay, we learn a new trade, not that piece,
Oh, okay.
but how do I navigate
Yeah.
those question? How do I navigate that? Actually, I really like behind the scenes in service to something. Actually, I really like emergency response because I know what I'm capable of, and go out in the every world, and I'm not responding to an emergency. I don't really know how to bring my to the table. So I do that deeper inner.
Yeah, and I always say that first responders, they survive best in chaos.
Right.
And when that chaos is removed, it's very difficult to adapt to an environment that's not chaotic. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of new personal skills. It takes a lot of that introspective, to take a look at, what do I have to bring to the table, because I only can I only can be at my top performance when I'm, reacting to a chaotic situation. Um,
Yeah.
it's a mind shift. It's a complete pivot.
Well, and I would say it's also a complete shift in the nervous system. I mean,
Yes.
people who have trained themselves to deliberately go against the nervous system signals about safety.
Yep.
When
Yep.
you're in that space, like you come out of chaos, but you brought the chaos with you. That chaos is
Yeah.
existing in your nervous system because every time you've had to respond to an emergency, you have shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. The body and the nervous system, it doesn't go away. It's not. It's like, oh, you don't need that. I'll just leave it over here. No, it's all stored in the body. And so releasing that trauma on a physical and nervous system level,
Yep.
to me, it's so important and valuable when you go to shift something. Otherwise, you're just bringing all of that into trying to be in a different environment where
Yep.
it's going to show up and it's going to be unpleasant.
No, you're spot on with that. Absolutely spot on. Just to shift gears a little bit. So, are you working with mainly, clients that are local to Syracuse and Central New York? I know business these days has no boundaries because of the internet and social media and all that good stuff. We really don't have any boundaries. We can work on with people in Syracuse. We can work with people in London. Is your core part of your business here locally, or are you kind of, all over the place?
I'm about half and have been online since 2013, and
Okay.
always to have an online business. And it's only sort of in the last few years that I've gotten more and more locally based. but particularly now. So one of the things when you decide to help people with big, like living their purpose or becoming the person who can, live to their fullest, there's a couple keys that show up. Like, oh, you have to train people to be happy, because literally it's a skill we haven't learned. And we have to release all that trauma that's getting in the way of us being able to shop like we know, like people we know we are. So I ended up having to learn all these new skills myself. One of the main lows that I do is like hands-on trauma release and sort of emotional stuff releaseness. So that's definitely the most low-key focused thing to do.
Do you find that people have difficulty tapping into that emotional side of thing, that EQ type part of their brain that maybe they hadn't considered before, but now as you present it in front of them, it's something they go, or is it something they kind of, because it's uncomfortable, they push it back?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. I think everybody has access, but it's so scary for so many
Hmm.
of us. We feel like if we tap into that well, it's going to drown us, and it's going to be never ending. And the beautiful thing about emotions is that they're not. If we actually feel them, it's like a minute tops. But with rage for men, and so many women are feeling rage right now. But particularly for men, and sadness and grief for men, we're so afraid to touch it because we think we'll never stop, and we'll just destroy aspects of our lives. Like men are afraid that they'll Paul, or they'll never stop being angry, or end up saying things to their kids they don't want to say, and women are afraid that they'll just cry forever and ever and ever, right? And they'll never
Yeah.
be happy again.
Yeah.
And so afraid to touch the emotion, we just keep ignoring it. And I had to go through that myself, and the fear of honestly, the fear of being me outside of being a government strategist who nobody knew. I got to do amazing work for the country that was important. Then I had to be me. I had to be me in public. Then I had to deal with all the parts that I didn't like, that I didn't want to be seen, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then all the stuff that all of us carry, regardless of our individual background, we have some real commonalities. And it is scary to face the emotions, but when we have a safe space to do it, whether that's something we've cultivated with ourselves or a therapist or with somebody like me, we really can move through it.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been down in a hole that I couldn't climb out of. And it's hard without help. It's hard, and you could hate every aspect of your life, and every day is terrible. But either you're trying to figure it out yourself, or trying to ignore it, and hopefully it'll change by itself, or giving it time and shielding, whatever it might be. At some point, sometimes you just need that extra bit of help to start climbing, one rung at a time.
Yeah.
And I've seen other people struggle, and it's like, man, if they only had, that emotional tool set to be able to deal with some of those things, it may really change things for them.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like this conversation, the work that you do, like sharing some of your videos that I've watched, like so important that people who are not afraid of other people's emotions
Right.
to show up, because often we were taught how to handle emotions by people who were freaked out by emotions. We were taught to bottle them up. We were taught not to
Yeah.
and we were taught, and that had nothing to do with us. It had to do with
Nope.
somebody else's discomfort.
That generational influence again.
And like, okay, clean up your teeth, whatever it is. And there are so many of us now, and which is so awesome, who have gone through that fire within us, that we're scared of your emotion. Like, I'm not scared of somebody's rage. All right, throw stuff around the room. We're good. I know, like,
Yeah.
I know it's not gonna last as long as you think it's gonna last. Like, I'm not afraid of you crying. Like, give it to me. Great. And
Do you think somebody
yeah.
like that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but do you think somebody like that is looking for somebody to feed that rage, feed that fire, so they can keep going? Or is it just one of those things where they need to explode, and then it's done?
What I found is that most people think that they are completely unique person who has more rage than anybody else, and if they let theirs out, it's going to destroy everything, everybody, and you don't understand the level of rage. And then I'm like, okay, let's give it 10 minutes on the clock. here we go. And for 3 minutes, they're like, I don't know. And I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
No, you got some more minutes. Come on. Like, let's
Right. Yep. Let it out. And what's interesting with that is like I know people that they just stay on the hamster wheel. They know that the situation that they're in is not good. They know that the situation that they're in is destructive, it's violent, it's mentally abusive, whatever it might be, but they stay on that hamster wheel because maybe they go from relationship to relationship, either personally or professionally, and I can fix this. I can fix this because this is where I'm comfortable at, because getting off that hamster wheel is so uncomfortable that I can't possibly do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I do that all the time. I had a realization yesterday about something I've been doing for years and know that I was doing. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, that's how I've been feeding into it. I just, when we're ready, we're ready. And one of
yeah.
the things I love and borrow from 12 programs is that you can't hit somebody's bottom for them.
No.
The moment for all of us where we hit a point where we say, all right, no. And it doesn't matter if it's 10 years after that or 2 months after that we start the process, but you hit it and you different decision. The thing that I
Yeah.
like to share with people to really like give people a little bit hope there is that the only reason you're feeling badly is because you're not in truth with yourself. You feel bad if it was truth.
Yep.
Truth is neutral, if not a little bit nice feeling. But because you feel so bad, that means not really you and not really true for you. That's why
Mm.
it feels bad. So you've already made a decision, right? Like you already know that that's not you. You just haven't acted on it, close the gap.
That is probably one of the best things I've heard on one of my podcast episodes is that part about the truth. The truth is painful sometimes. The truth is uneasy sometimes. And it just accepting that whatever version of the truth that you're going to accept that you're comfortable with. Um, that I think everybody should kind of asterisk that exclamation point, whatever, that part of this podcast, because I don't think people hear that enough.
Yeah, we're
And
so good blaming ourselves. Like I should be
yeah,
different and I should be better. I should get up at 5 a.m. I should write for an hour in the morning. I should be going to the gym. Like, come on. We're just trying to perfect ourselves into being like good enough to achieve, like to be rewarded with this. Like, I don't
yeah,
believe that we're rewarded by good performance, anything. So I think we can drop a lot of the blame and a lot of the shame that we push towards ourselves. And this place to do it is just recognize that like, oh, you feel bad because it's not right for you. That's the
that's so
end of the
good.
story. You feel bad because it's not true.
Right. Yeah. And I just have so many thoughts running through my head of, you people sit and they take these and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and they may watch influencers or people putting on content that's similar to that, but I think that a lot of people don't really latch onto it because it seems it's somebody that's not attainable. It's somebody that's not within
Yeah.
their circle. And with you being so local and hyper local and a neighbor or something like that, I can see where the work that you're doing would really resonate with some folks because it's not somebody on the other end of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the what I've found, especially with scrolling, is that even when it's inspirational, there is shame.
Yeah.
Because we're not there yet, and we're never gonna be yet. And how do we get there? Why aren't I as good as why? I mean, I'm just saying what I think every morning when I scroll, right? Just for
Right.
people my
Right.
own thoughts.
I
But
I
when I go into a space of, well, if I'm okay and I know who I am, just by the fact that I know what I'm not and what I don't like, okay, well now I have a sense of me. I can start to build ability to live sense of me instead of living in the misery of what's not me. And the more we do that, then we can trust ourselves, start creating, put it that way. Instead of just consuming, we start creating. And whether we
mm,
tangible like you are, with a podcast and with your videos, or we write a book, or we just create by being a nice person at the grocery store and having a beautiful interaction. Like, it doesn't matter, but we shift into starting to act and show up how we want to. And that's
Yeah.
an impact.
So good. Yeah, and I just heard that this week was creating instead of consuming. If you want to make a difference, create instead of consume. And truth be told, a lot of times with the videos that I create, it was it was a lot about branding. But the more I got into it, the more I'm almost talking to myself.
Right.
And a lot of the videos that I create are, influences that I've had, something I've seen, something I've gone through, something I remember. And it's like, you know what, I need to share that. There's some times where I'm like, I don't know why I'm creating these videos. Nobody cares. But then I'll get a message from a friend that says, that video really spoke to me. I'm glad you made that and posted that today. And that makes all the difference. It only takes that one person.
Yeah. Yeah, I went back to a high school reunion 5 years ago, and popular guy, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited to see you." Why? And it turns out watching every one of my videos, I had no idea. He never commented, he never liked.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, I hear about you all the time."
Uh,
And it is, you just never know, and every one of those videos was just me talking about what I'm going through. I need to remember. Yeah,
yeah.
because we're all on the journey. Like it's so easy to think that some people have figured it out, and maybe they figured out something that it's the moment you're struggling with, and it's cool because that's a person that you can now learn from. But nobody's got the whole thing figured out.
No.
Yeah,
No.
so we're all just going for the same stuff. How do I feel a little bit happier? How do I feel like I like myself more? Like, how do I yeah. It's all our own process that if we luck into something that works, we get there.
Yeah, 100%. What was the point that you went, you know what, I'm tired of working for the government, and this mentor coaching thing could really be a thing for me? What was that point what was that tipping point for you?
It was a bit slow than one moment, and there wasn't a direct, okay, I'm gonna go from this to this. But for me, I always wanted to have a very specific career in international peace building, and I
Oh.
just achieved it. Like, everything I could ever imagine, I achieved in 4 years. And at the time, I was 29 years old, like, "What?" I thought it was my life purpose. I wasn't supposed to just check that off list. Like, what do I do now? And I had a bunch of other amazing job offers, and every one of them felt like that would make me feel more important. Like
Mm.
that mom to brag about at home. But none of them, like, they were really deeply meaningful for me anymore. Um, and so I've always been into spirituality. I'd always been into, like, the self-development world. I had a
Mhm.
little development book club in the government that I was part of. And so I decided to, at the time, I called it to prepare. And everyone said, "Well, what are you preparing for?" Like, I have no idea. Just know that I'm preparing. And so I did the most stereotypical thing. I my house. I moved to a mountaintop in New Zealand where I was
Oh.
all myself to do this deep spiritual work, and it turned out that I went and I was kind of a jerk and a little bit messed up. And so I ended up on this mountaintop having to face myself and going, "What do here?" Like,
Yeah, oh, wow.
and just through people I met in New Zealand and helping them out with strategic business planning, I ended up stumbling into the system of being able to strategically connect the soul's mission and purpose. And so it all just unfolded sort of time. But mostly it was just feeling that if I kept going, it would only be for my ego and not for any deeper reason.
That is one hell of a story.
What?
I and, not that everybody would need to climb to a mountaintop in New Zealand to kind of be one with themselves, but I think there's some validity to that. There's some validity to, embracing the quiet, sitting with yourself and kinda going inside and going, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
And figuring it out from there one step at a time. And it's hard. It's so hard. I've been there, done that. It's hard. It's like, well, looking in that internal mirror and going, "I really don't like you, and how do I fix this?"
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, the biggest thing I tell people is like, you don't have to cut ties with your whole life. Like I did the stereotype. You don't have to do stereotype. I know how we don't have to go along with the midlife crisis of your family, drive a Corvette. We don't have to go down that path. In fact, it's actually the small tweaks, and when we make the small inner tweaks, they end up having huge ripple effect in our outer lives, but with only a few smaller changes. And me learning how to be a little bit more joyful, and like you said, train the mind to search for joy on a daily basis instead of search for criticism and misery. Like that's a massive impact that's going to build your confidence. It's going to build your intuition. It's going to build your like willingness to take risks and go for the thing you want. It's going to make you nicer to be around and have better relationships. Like that one little thing where you train the mind for joy and creating just an entirely different life, and you don't really have to do that much.
I think the biggest part of that, to unpack that a little bit, is your end results from getting a little uncomfortable in that self-reflection and those that introspective, getting uncomfortable with that, the benefits and the outside of that is going to be 10 times better than the situation you may be in right now. And if you and as humans, we can absorb and um kind of compensate for a whole lot. But it's that work in progress, and this is a long-winded point, but that work in progress to get to something better. And I think that's where a lot of us need to kind of keep focus on.
Yeah. We all know the phrase, "The truth will set you free." I think that truth is like, I quit. I need a divorce. Blah blah blah. My life sucks. No, the truth is, oof, I feel overlooked by life.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
sad, right? Like truth is just facing what's really true for you, not that big action you need to take, because without the big actions, those come later. The big
Yeah.
actions are easy decisions. They're easy decisions once you feel the emotion beneath it.
And realistically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody's truth is different. Everybody's truth is different, and it's finding it, right?
Yeah.
Wow, so good. So let me ask you this: what is the top 3 pieces of advice you can give to someone that may be trying to find a new path or trying to redevelop themselves or find that truth? What's the top 3 pieces of advice you could give?
Yeah, first one, and this is important, is amp up joy, because we've all had experience where we're feeling funky, we go with a bunch of friends, or we watch a video and we start laughing, and afterwards we're like, what was I so stressed about?
Yep.
It cuts through so much confusion, it cuts through so much worry, it cuts through so much stress, and it helps you refocus on your priority. So training yourself to be happier, which sounds so ridiculous to adults, right? Like, and I don't mean like, okay, go out drinking. That falls under joy, right?
Yep. Yep.
Blowing up steam isn't the same thing as opening your heart to truly feeling joy. But stretch yourself to go for a walk, go to a comedy show, watch something funny, laugh with a family member instead of judging them, their behavior.
Yeah.
Just laugh at it instead. Little things like that. So amping up joy could probably be all 3, because it is going to have the biggest impact on everything you do from that space, because you'll just be more aligned with who you actually are.
Yep.
The second thing is one of my all-time favorite questions. I ask this 100 times a day. And if anybody's going to get a pen, because it's specifically phrased a certain way, it doesn't work if it's not this way. And it's the question, what is the loving choice? And I asked that to retrain my intuition, because I was so like, I heard so many people's voices, and I had so much pressure about what I couldn't figure out what I wanted for dinner, let alone what my just be. And so I use that question. I kid you not. I'm more difficult than most people, but I used that question for 2 months before I even heard an answer. And I would ask it like 100 times a day. And so you ask it standing at the fridge. What's the loving choice? Broccoli or brownies? I never would choose, because sometimes they're the loving choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
For sure.
A lot of people change that and they're, oh, what would love do? No. What would love do is based. What would love do is judgment based. Telling yourself that you are not love. So you need, but what loving choice invites a part of you that speaks language of what's right for you, forward a truth. And well, this is where we're saying it's not about doing the thing that you hear. It's about building the relationship where you ask and you know the answer. You're still an adult. You can different choice. Like you can hear brownies and still eat broccoli. You're an adult.
That's awesome. I love it.
Not abandon yourself, right?
So good.
Yeah. So those things combined, I think skip a third, but those two things combined are probably, they will create massive shifts in your life.
So good. Alexis, I'm glad we had this conversation today.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm going to be selfish for a minute and just say, I think that for whatever reason, the universe put you in front of me on this podcast to talk about this. Because quite frankly, even in my own professional life, things have been a little stressful the last couple of weeks. And I think that everything that you've said today, there were so many great points that, and go back, rewind and listen to it again or watch it again. I think that if you're in a place where maybe you haven't been able to face your truth, accept your truth, find your loving choice, that, a lot of what we talked about today is going to help a lot of people. And with that, what is the best way for any of the viewers to connect with you?
Yeah, all business owners, my way is constantly in flux. So find me on social media, send me a message, connect with me there, and we can chat about all the what's right for you and when we are. And yeah, social media is always
awesome. And if for whatever reason you can't find Alexis on social, just reach out to me. Drop a comment on this video. Reach out to me. I'll be happy to connect you. Alexis, thank you so much for joining today. This was such a great conversation, and I really love to do it again, maybe on a different level and take it up a notch.
Thank you. I love to, and thank you for the space for the community. It's such a gift.
Outstanding. Well, with that, everyone, if you are, listening to the audio or watching the video, when this is released, please, drop comments, hit the like button. Let us know what you liked about it, what you might not have liked about it, and different stories that you can share based on what we were discussing. This is the only way I'm going to grow this little community around this podcast, but it is a local community, and that's the goal, is to have that local flavor and reach the part of the community that may feel kind of out of touch or didn't have access to this kind of information because all you do is see it on these and not on the local level. So again, Alexis, thank you so much today. And with that, everyone, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.